We are in conversation with Professor Satinder Dhiman from the Woodbury University, California, USA. Once again, hearty welcome to you in the new year, sir.
Thank you,
What
sir.
a pleasure. Wishing you a very happy new year on the soil of India. We are in conversation with him how to empower Indian education system. What are the global best HR practices when we talk about mega trends in higher education? Then he was very kind to differentiate between how do we differentiate between educator, teacher and trainer. Now further we come on to something very interesting we would like to discuss with you. Nowadays there's a buzzword called skilling and skilling. Everybody talks about India's youth to be skilled, India's youth to be skilled for tomorrow, and everybody is using soft skill, hard skill. Soft skill, they are using a word where they talk about etiquettes, manners, gesture, body language, personality and all that part. Hard skills means the particular sector, particular segment and a particular area for which you are being trained.
Craft.
Particular craft, you know. But in America, and particularly the place you come from, there's a word they use, competencies. They don't use the word skill anymore. They use the word competencies. Would you be kind enough to today elaborate and discuss and give us the illustration, practical part? How do we differentiate between skill and competencies?
It's an important question, and I feel that in India, the word skill development is used more and more. Wherever you go, there are seminars, there are workshops, there are certificate programs being given about skill development. Now, there is nothing wrong with that, but we have to understand what is what. What is skill development? How far it goes? What do we mean by when we say competency approach, and up to what level that goes? And then there is another area which is called dispositions.
One degree higher than competency?
Yes.
Okay.
You know, the higher, lower may be one way of looking at it, but it is more as you move, you can say as you move higher, the cognitive ability becomes more complex.
The cognitive ability
becomes more complex. So skill,
you got to simplify.
Sure.
For our youth.
The skills are the very basic level of education.
Okay.
Where you learn to perform a task effectively, skillfully, and that task may have something to do with getting some work done, performing an action, or it may have to do with, as you said.
So it's basically to improve efficiency?
For the most part. But then, these days they talk about soft skill, as you mentioned, emotional intelligence and personality development, social behavior, people skill and all that. But still, the word skill has a certain connotation, a ring to it, which means the cognitive ability, our mind's ability to understand a task at the basic level. So you have to understand that. Competencies are a little more complex order of cognitive ability, meaning where you are using more of your analytical, critical, evaluative thinking.
Would you relate it to some example?
Sure. For example, mostly in our education, people are used to memorization.
Okay.
So development of the memory is sort of skill. You can take courses. They will enhance your memory power and all of that. So a skill has to do with a very initial level of knowledge accumulation, the understanding of the knowledge. This is like a pyramid. As you move higher, it becomes more refined. So a competency is more refined form of a skill, in which, for example, there is something called farming. It's also a skill. But then there is a scientist who also has a skill, but his skill is at a different level of cognitive complexity. So a skill is a more basic level of human mind's complexity.
Now, if I just want to understand as a layman, let's take your example of farming. Farmer, or basically the basic skill that you are doing, cultivation and all. The person who is giving meteorological information in advance, who is telling how to increase or enhance the cultivation or fertility or whatever is to be done into that field. Is that a competence?
Well, yes, yes. But you have to understand, farming as such is something repetitive, is something you can learn by observation. But as you move higher, like you mentioned meteorology, if you want to be a meteorologist, it represents a higher level of skill development,
Understanding.
and we can call it a competence.
Okay.
A competence is a higher level of skill sophistication.
And then you use third word,
Disposition.
disposition.
Disposition has to do with the psychological component.
Oh, just amplify it.
Yeah, it has to do with, let me give you an example. There are people who have certain knack about things. So they have developed a certain competence which is even higher order than the word competence we have used. They are able to understand things at the more intuitive level. The intuition comes into play, and that is called disposition. Disposition is a more holistic term, which may include skill, which may include competence, and much more. So disposition, for example, you may see a child, and you say, this person has a certain predilection for music, right? And he may or she may show some characteristics
After some time.
Yeah, for disposition. So that is the disposition we are talking about. It has cognitive, it has psychological, it has emotional, it even has spiritual component to it.
Oh, spiritual as well.
Component to it.
Okay.
So disposition is a more holistic word. So instead of saying skill development, we can move to competency model, and from competency we can move to disposition
model. What will we call it?
Construct.
Okay.
Construct is a cognitive, is a complex model to think about things.
Okay.
So disposition is a higher level of understanding about a simple task.
Okay.
You see, there is nothing lower or higher about farming and science or chemistry or other things. But there is a different level there is a different complexity.
Okay.
Right. So there is one person who paints the wall, but then there is a person who paints a picture like Mona Lisa. Both are painters, but there is a complexity. The difference between painting a wall is more crude. It is more simple.
Basic.
That's why I said basic is
Yeah.
skill. But one person who makes Mona Lisa, which I had the privilege of seeing at Paris. In Paris, there was a museum where the original one and only one picture of Mona Lisa is about this big, like this particular mirror is there. If you look at the picture, you will know what it means to be Leonardo da Vinci. So Leonardo da Vinci also uses paint, and a person who does the painting on the house and all that. But दोनों में बड़ा फर्क है.
Okay.
एक राम है, एक टेंटा है.
Okay. Wonderful. You have given us two new words, that from skill we move to competencies, and from competency we move to disposition. We will certainly take a benefit of it, and we will try and further work onto it. Would you further like to conclude?
I just only wanted to say the difference is not of a kind. The difference is of complexity.
Okay.
One, as you said, basic, more advanced level,
intermediate,
even greater advanced level,
yes,
and the highest advanced level.
Highest advanced level. Thank you very much, Professor Saab. Wonderful to share with us the skills, the competencies, and disposition. Thank you very much for being with us. Let's remain tuned in. We will be coming with the next part of this particular series, what we are developing in the new year on the 1st of January 2020, how to empower the Indian education system. Thank you very much, Professor.
Thank you, Ratsa, for having me here.
Thank you.